Right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the second series of crack code interview problems in Rust. Now, before we dive into the show, I do want to say that this is an interactive experience. We want your questions in the chat. We want your comments. Please dive in. Please comment. Ask us anything. We're going to be asking you questions. We want you engaged, but you must follow our code of conduct. We've pinned it to the chat. Basically, don't be a jerk, be nice. And if you can't follow our code of conduct, we will kick you off the event and ban you from any future Microsoft events. So with that, welcome to Crack Code Interview Problems in Rust. And I'm very, very excited to be joined by Nell Shamrell-Harrington. Unfortunately, Nell wasn't able to join us for the last series, but Nell is with us. So Nell, do you want to introduce yourself? Because I'm super excited that you're here.
Certainly. Hey, everyone. I'm Nell Shamrell-Harrington. I was very sorry to miss the last series. I got COVID, and it was not fun. But I'm healed up and very, very glad to be here now. I am a principal engineer here at Microsoft, working in Azure. Prior to coming to Microsoft, I was on the Rust team at Mozilla, and I am the lead editor of This Week in Rust. So if you aren't subscribed to This Week in Rust, I hope you do, and it's fantastic to be here with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you actually put a link to This Week in Rust in the chat?
Absolutely. Let me pull that
awesome.
up.
So yeah, if folks are interested in learning more Rust, then yeah, sign up to This Week in Rust. You get a whole lot of good stuff there. So Nell, welcome. Thank you for being here. For those who haven't seen me before, I'm Jim Bennett. I'm a regional cloud advocate at Microsoft based in Redmond, and I do cool stuff like this. So I get paid to hang out with cool people and hack on code, which is awesome. And we have Ward Matthias saying, hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Glad to see you again, Jim. Hope season 2 is better than season 1. I hope so. So really excited to have Nell here. It was fun last time with Ryan and Yosh, but should be awesome fun with Nell here today. Okay, I'm just going to post this link to This Week in Rust.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to put it in the.
That's all right. I've got a poster there. There you go.
There we go.
So
cool.
Folks sign up. We're so there. Cool. So as I said, this is interactive. Please put your comments in the chat. Ask us questions. And we're going to be asking you questions. We want to hear your thoughts on this. Now, the purpose of this stream, and this whole series, in fact, is to look at the kind of code interview questions that you might get as a software engineer applying for a job, the LeetCode, HackerRank, those kind of coding problems. And you can see how experts try and possibly even fail to complete these problems. If you joined us for the last season, in fact, we took us 2 attempts to not do Conway's Game of Life. So, we may not actually get very far with this. Wald Matthias says, Nell was sorely missed on season 1.
Aww.
We kept expecting Nell would show up for an episode. Yeah, literally every episode was, hey, as you can tell, this is not Nell.
Yeah.
So.
Well, glad to be here now. Yeah.
Yeah, really excited you're here now. So this is episode 1 of 3. We'll stick a link in the chat to sign up for the other 2 episodes if you haven't already. And accompanying this series, we have a cloud skills challenge. So this is your chance to learn some Rust and kind of compete with other people. You sign up for this cloud skills challenge. We point you in the direction of some hands-on learning modules, and then you learn code and you can see how much you've completed against other people. So it's kind of a chance for you to kind of compete with others to learn Rust. So get a link to that dropped in the chat. Cool, that's there. Thank you. So this is your chance to learn a bit of Rust and compete with other people. So let's dive into today's problem. Today we are doing a word search. So Nell, how are you with LeetCode?
So I'll start off saying I have nearly 15 years of professional developer experience. LeetCode problems still fill me with absolute dread. I think in part because when I'm doing them is usually when I'm preparing for a technical interview, and there's very little that's scarier to me than that, even though I've been through several of them. So I think no matter how many years of experience you have, this is intimidating. So glad to be working with you on this.
Yeah, they do get quite scary, and I mean, I've been on other streams where we've discussed careers, and there's definitely a lot of debate as to how much value these particular problems have. You know, they're designed to show, do you know data structures and algorithms? But some folks feel they just show that you've practiced doing LeetCode and they don't actually have any real world value. So I don't think we should really get into whether they're a good thing or not, but yeah, they are terrifying. Some of them definitely feel like a test of, do I happen to know this particular algorithm? Which if you don't know it, then, you know, you've got no chance of solving the problem. But you know, it should be a bit of fun, shouldn't it? Now, should be a bit of fun trying to see if we can solve this one. Comment from one says, "Happy to hear you're doing better, Nell."
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah, a lot of love pouring out towards Nell. This is great.
Oh,
okay. Okay. So Wald Matthias says, "Talk about Compete. The MS Graph API hackathon is on, but tried to promote any projects with Rust, and they said no, only C# for now. Time to gently push Rust more at Microsoft." Yeah, sorry about that.
Working on that. Yeah, working on nudging Rust at Microsoft. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Because I know there's a few folks been doing this. So now, how much? How successful has it been so far? Getting more Rust at Microsoft.
I mean, it's definitely making a lot of progress. I think when I first came to Microsoft, I think about 2.5 years ago, it was very, very experimental. People were interested, but kind of wondering, you know, is this really something that we should invest in? I'd say it's gone beyond interest to this is something we need to do more of now. So there's definitely going to be more to come about us at Microsoft.
Yeah, because I remember Mark Rusinovich was tweeting something that he was saying literally there is no reason not to build any systems applications in anything other than Rust.
That was funny because I had people inside Microsoft because Mark Rusinovich until very recently was my skip level manager, and I had people inside Microsoft all pinging me saying, "Is Mark announcing official Microsoft policy?" And I had people external to Microsoft, including some press people, pinging me about that. So no, he's not announcing new Microsoft policy via tweet. He does not do that, thankfully. But he tweets what he feels, and he feels, you know, new code should be written in something like Rust.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. As we've seen in past series, we'll see this today. There's a whole lot of problems you just don't get in Rust. That if you want to get that performance of C++, but without those problems, Rust is the answer, isn't it?
Right. I mean, we've had, you know, memory safe languages for a while, but most of them use a garbage collector, which adds overhead if you're doing like really, really low level systems programming. So C++ were kind of the only, not the only options, but the most frequent options for that. But Rust does not need a garbage collector and works quite well at those low levels.
Yeah. So I guess a question for the audience then: who's actually using Rust in their day job? Whereas who's just using Rust for fun, or who's just interested in Rust? So question for you, please drop in the chat. Are you actually a paid Rust developer? Are you just a hobbyist, or are you just interested? That'd be good to find out how many people are actually using this in the real world, because it seems there's not so many Rust jobs out there yet. But every time we do like a Stack Overflow survey, Rust is the most loved language. So I'm hoping over time there's going to be more and more roles for Rust developers. So one says only 1 or 2 projects in Rust at work right now. So not too many. And Wald Matthias says, I am distributed systems plus Internet of Things.
Yeah,
nice.
That's awesome. My first Rust work project I worked on was this was when I was at Chef Software, a startup, was a distributed systems project. So yeah, it works great for that.
And for IoT as well. So I'm an IoT nerd.
Oh, cool.
You know, whenever you're doing like C++ programming for Arduinos, I always make all the null mistakes and, you know, my memory issues and all that kind of stuff. So I am planning to do more IoT with Rust. I haven't really done anything yet. I've kind of looked through it and gone, oh, okay, here's a great example. I don't have that piece of hardware. I must get that at some point. That's about as far as I've got. But I know we've released Rust support for Azure Sphere. So I've got the hardware for that. So I do need to try and do some more Rust on IoT devices. 'Cause, you don't want, if you've got a piece of hardware you deploy like a factory, you don't want it to crash because of null pointer exceptions or delete memory that you then need to use, because redeploying can become hard, especially if it's a device that's not often connected. So having a lot safer IoT device, you've got a lot more trust when you deploy the device that there's whole classes of errors you're not going to get, feels like a good thing, really.
Yeah, it's things we know are mistakes that we commonly make when we're doing C++ programming, and we can eliminate a large class of errors by default.
Yeah, the compiler just stops you.
And it stops you in a nurturing way. Well, that's one of my favorite things about Rust is the error messages. So I got quoted for this recently, but C and C++ compiler error messages make me feel like I'm a horrible person. The Rust ones are much friendlier and are good at guiding people to where in the code the error is probably originating and suggesting how to fix it.
Yeah, so I was doing C++ like 24 years ago, and I remember the STL errors. And of course, it was always templates. You end up like a whole page of just stuff trying to find the error, and that makes you hate yourself. So I just don't want to do this anymore. I want it to all go away. I mean, I wouldn't say Rust is perfect.
Of course,
some of the errors, you're the borrow checker errors. I was like, okay, thanks, but I don't know what to do now. So I feel there's definitely some room for improvement, but it's nicer than like weird STL errors. So Wald Matthews says, trying to kill Go and Python wherever I go. Yep, go for it. And then Wald Matthews follows up with, hey Jim, don't be shy, time to promote your IoT for Beginners course.
Oh, yes.
Fine, okay, if I must. 24 lessons, IoT, free, open source, Python on Raspberry Pi or C and C++ on Arduino. Fine, I will promote that if you insist, Wald Matthews, if you insist. Cool, link to that is in the chat. Graham Dirksen says, currently a robotics engineer / software developer, learning Rust to transition to the future.
Awesome.
Nice. And then Scott McKeon says, we're trying to switch from Go to Rust. So I'm feeling a couple of people there thinking Go for, I guess, for systems programming, thinking of moving to Rust because Go's a garbage collector language, isn't it? So
it is, yes. There's some overhead.
Yeah, so Rust just don't have that overhead. I mean, I'm not a Go person. I don't know how bad it is, but I know, for example, I worked with folks who built like big Java-based trading systems, and when that goes to a garbage collection loop, that can actually be seriously problematic because you might lose like a few seconds worth of data.
Microsecond. Yep, and it's all about getting the trades in first. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see why this is kind of push from garbage collected languages to non-garbage collected languages for system processing. Doc Jones says, hi Nell, I've written a GraphQL server in Rust for work and slipped a WASM module into an Echo server. Nice, because someone was saying, I'm not sure whether Josh or Ryan was saying last time that Rust is the best language for WASM.
It's a great language for WASM. I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it's the best just because I don't have a lot of experience with the other ones, but yeah, it works great. And hi Doc. Doc is someone I know. So good
nice.
To see you. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Doc. So World Matches says, I avoided C++, stuck to C, and jumped to C#, old Microsoft .NET 1 point something MCSD. Now I threw everything and just forced myself to use Rust for everything. Nice. So I started with C++, then moved on to C#. Now I touch some of everything, but I'm definitely really enjoying Rust. Whether I'll get to do it too much for my day job, I don't know, but it's fun. It's just nice. I think that's the way to describe it. It's just nice to use. My background's changed. For the folks who've seen me before, I've got a different background. I haven't put the lights up in here yet, but my lighting control system, I've got a Stream Deck, that's all written in Rust, just because I could.
Awesome.
So, press buttons and it controls Home Assistant and LEDs all using Rust via Raspberry Pi. Question from Rafael Chavez saying, what do you think about Rust as backend?
I think it works great for it. I'm not sure backend. I mean, there's a variety of things. If you're thinking backend of like a web application program, I think it works very, very well. There's some cool web frameworks out there. There's Rocket. There's a couple of other ones, and yeah, it works great as a backend in those contexts and in other contexts as well.
So Wald Matthias comments saying, at Rafael Chavez, that's where it really shines. Rust plus infrastructure, a perfect match. Yeah. I mean, so Rocket's actually the web framework I use for my lighting control system.
Oh, cool.
It took me a while to kind of get my head around it, but it's really nice. It's really
It has
nice.
my favorite method in all of Rust, which is ignite. Yes, I love such and such dot ignite. That's my favorite method in all of Rust things.
Yeah, that's how you start it, isn't it? You do rocket.ignite and that actually starts the web server running, which is brilliant naming. McNet says, is there a way to use Rust for desktop apps or multi-platform?
There is. I've heard of people doing that. I know there's, this was a couple of years ago, but there's some support added for, what are they called? Universal Windows developer devices or something like that. I definitely have heard of people doing work in that area, so I believe it does. If you go to This Week in Rust and search in the archives, you likely can find some articles and some tutorials of people using it for desktop apps.
And I've seen some reference to using Rust libraries with Android. You can't write an Android app in Rust, but there was reference to using Rust libraries in Android.
Google itself is doing that, I believe, for some areas. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess with things like Rust being part of the Linux kernel, the Rust support being part of the Linux kernel, it's only gonna increase, isn't it?
Yeah. Someone once asked me before that, what does Linus Torvalds think of Rust? And I said, well, he doesn't hate it, and I'll take that.
Yeah, and this is someone who hated all source code control and invented Git. So, if he doesn't hate it, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Scott McKeon says, Doc Jones, what did you use for a web framework? And Doc Jones has replied, Rocket, Warp, and Actix. Oh, that's a list. Yeah, that's a list of different frameworks. Yeah, has used Warp. So I've not come across Warp. So
Warp
Rocket
is pretty cool too. Yeah, along with Actix. Warp, I think, is a lighter framework. I'm going to pull that up real quick. Oh, you got it. Yep, Rust Warp.
I got it. Super easy composable web server framework for warp speeds.
Ooh.
Okay, and it builds on top of Hyper. Okay, I can see some kind of space-ish kind of naming going on here.
Yeah, I think I remember because I came from the Ruby world before I came to Rust, and if I was going to make a comparison, Rocket felt more like Rails to me, and Warp felt more like Sinatra. If there's anyone else who has some Ruby experience there.
Okay, I don't Ruby at all, so that means nothing to me. But if any Ruby fans out there, if that makes sense. Okay, so Warp is just kind of easier, simpler, but do you lose power in return for that, functionality-wise?
I don't know. I think it might be less built-in stuff, but it's been a long time since I checked it out.
Okay, because Rocket seems to have a lot.
Right.
Yeah, all the stuff around databases, so you can kind of connect it to a database and pass the database connection into different methods, and just the whole kind of here's all the different databases it supports, which is quite nice. Warp doesn't seem to list that, but I guess if you just want a simple, here's a whole lot of APIs, and I've got my own crates that I'm calling out to. This could do. Okay. World Matches says, or you could use Tori, multi-platform desktop.
That's right. Forgot about Tori. Let me pull it up.
What is okay?
Tori apps. Yes.
Okay. Build an optimized, secure, and front-end independent application for multi-platform deployment. Okay, it says cross-platform. What platforms?
Let's see here.
Okay, Windows installer, macOS bundle, Linux bundle.
Cool.
Okay, so you can actually build Windows, Mac, and Linux
That's great.
applications. Nice. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that, World Matches. Sorry, is a good one for folks to check out.
Mhm.
And World Matches follows on to say, by the way, anyone wanting to look at great projects, check out SurrealDB, you and Tokos. Okay. I
have played with a little bit.
Okay, SurrealDB is the ultimate cloud database for tomorrow's applications. It's a NewSQL cloud database. I've not heard of NewSQL. I've heard of NoSQL and SQL, but not heard of NewSQL before.
Cool.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great projects to check out then. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to look at some. I'm guessing then this is built using Rust. So there's a .cargo file in there.
Yeah, that's usually a good clue.
There's a main.rs.
Yep.
So
Yep.
okay,
Cool.
so SurrealDB is built using Rust. Cool. So Doc Jones says, I'm also building a suite of helper libs that I can plug into other apps like an RPC server, authentication, authlib, and login system.
Cool.
Awesome. Doc, would you be willing to share your GitHub if any of this is open source? If you can share it. So we have folks chatting on both YouTube and Twitch, by the way. So if you're on one platform, you're not seeing the questions that are reading out. We are putting them across the bottom of the screen. That's because if you're on Twitch, you don't see YouTube. You're on YouTube, you don't see Twitch. We haven't got that set up yet. But yes, so Doc, if you're happy to share your GitHub, I will repost that so the folks on Twitch can see that as well. Scott McKean says, I was looking at Tide too. I'm currently trying to choose. Tide? Do you know Tide now?
I don't know Tide.
Obviously, you've got...
Okay. How to remove rusting. Okay, here, docs.rs/Tide.
HTTPS Tide.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, minimal and pragmatic Rust web application framework built for rapid development. Cool. I had not heard of Tide before. So there's a lot out there. Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I've found as a downside to Rust at the moment is whenever I try and find something, it feels that there is a lot of different options, and I haven't worked out what are the winners. It's like, with Python, I want to build a web app, I'm going to go Flask or Django. It's kind of, there are the two winners. I found a bit with Rust so far that there's multiple options. I don't know which one is the obvious
winner. It's a young
winner.
ecosystem, so there's lots of different options.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there was a whole thing around dates and times, like one package you should use, but it does everything except it's got a vulnerability in it that the author just no intention of fixing. So everyone's now moving to another date time package, and it's like I don't know what I should be doing here as a new person. So, Nell, what are your thoughts on how does a new person approach this young ecosystem and choose the right modules for things?
Right. I mean, asking works really well, whether on the Rust forums, whether in the Rust official Rust discords. That often is really helpful because you're getting a lot of people with experience, and they can point. They might say, what are your needs? You say your needs, and then they point you to certain ones based on that. They'll also probably know which ones are well maintained or which ones have been archived. I don't like using the word abandoned, but just are not updated as often. So asking people honestly is the best method. And my favorite thing about the Rust community, I've used this term a lot, and this dates me a little bit as an elder millennial, but no one in the Rust community calls you a noob. Which is very different from some other online communities out there. I found even when I was learning Rust, even when I was asking what I perceived as very basic questions, no one was rude about it, and either replied the answer or pointed me to very helpful resources where I could find the answer myself. So I'd say asking around is the best policy. I know within Microsoft we have a list of crates that are generally thumbs up for use, but that's private to Microsoft at the moment. So I met some other organizations might have that as well.
Okay, so if you're an organization that uses Rust, you probably have an architecture team that's defined that bill of materials, that software
You
BOM,
might,
software bill of
at least,
materials,
yeah.
that these are the packages you should be using. But for hobbyists, then get yourself on the Rust Discord, for example, ask there. It's great to hear it's a welcoming community, because you say you do get some where you ask what you think is this a dumb question? And they respond with, oh, you're such a noob. As you say, is this a dumb
exactly.
question?
Yeah.
Why can't you Google it? It's like, well, that's not helpful. I'm not after what I can Google. I'm
Have you
after
tried Googling the
advice.
word Rust? Is what I would say to them. Or Rust Tide, like we just did. It's not the most Googleable thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like looking for Rust streams, for example. You want to watch people coding in Rust because there is a video game called Rust, isn't there?
I'm a moderator on the Rust subreddit, and we get a lot of posts of people asking things about the Rust game.
Yeah. So it's when you get confusion like that with a name, you need to have a welcoming community that's going to go, hey, okay, you asked about the game. Here's a link to the actual place you want to ask or what have you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So Scott McKean says, I was looking at Tide 2. I'm currently trying to choose.
Cool.
Okay. Maybe somebody I should play with at some point. McNett says, I think you mentioned IoT. Is there a library to handle RPI signals like something IO for Rust? I'm guessing that star is because there's a word that their content filter has blocked. So a library for handling RPI signals. I think so. All I've done with Rust is I'm using a library to handle the WS2812B LEDs. Other than that, I'm just using Rocket. There's a lot of stuff happening in the IoT space. There is even a whole embedded Rust book, isn't there?
There is.
I'm trying to find and this is based off a particular STM32 board. I believe they recommend that you get. But yes, so whether you're obviously a Raspberry Pi is just a Linux device. So if you just want to run something on it, any Rust that runs on Linux will run on it. But obviously you can then start bringing in hardware control if you want to do that. One is saying, curiously, the solution to problem, if we can get to it. Yes, sorry.
Yes, okay, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, we haven't got that far yet. Apologies.
Like, when will the streamer play the game in gaming Twitch streams? But yes.
Yeah, tip for Googlers, search term, always use Rust-lang for prefix. So Rust-lang, so that's something.
And if you're searching for Go things, use Golang as well. I remember I searched internally at Microsoft, Go Microsoft, and it was not helpful. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So sorry people. Sorry. Let's actually approach the problem.
Yeah. Cool.
So this is why last time we couldn't do Conway's Game of Life in two sessions, because we were just chatting so much about everything. So I'm going to put a link to my GitHub in the chat. This is where the answers will be, and this is where we've got today's problem. So today's problem is a word search problem. Which is probably going to spill into next week's problem as well at this rate. So the idea of the problem is, if we've got a board made up of a grid of characters and then a word, we have to simply find out, does the word exist or not? Not where is it, just a simple true or false, does that word exist? And the word can be constructed from any adjacent cells, up, down, left, or right, but not diagonally. So I've got an example here. I have a board here. And the word is hello. So we find it Hello. So you see we're kind of going sideways, down, sideways. So that one is true. This board here, we're looking for world. We've got it here, WORLD, going backwards.
So you can go backwards. Gotcha.
Yeah. Go in it in any direction. But this board here, we're looking for the word Rust. We don't have it. We have RUS and then a diagonal to the T.
Right.
But that's not valid. It has to be up, down, left, or right.
So it sounds like we might do something like we find the first letter and then we look at all the cells adjacent to it, go to the next letter if it's there, and look for cells adjacent, but not the cell that we just came from. Something like that.
Yeah. Yes. So we kind of do like a breadth first search, don't we? Once we find a starting point, we can kind of look all around that to try and find the next letter, and then all around, and then we just to mark where we've been, so we don't go back and forward.
Gotcha.
Also, meet the requirements says just joined. Happy for the delay,
Aw.
and seems like we'll be backtracking today. Hey, meet the requirements. Meet the requirements joined us last time, so
Oh, cool.
glad to have you back.
Nice to meet you.
So
Meet
welcome.
the requirements.
Yeah. So cool. So this is our problem. This is what we need to do. So what we've been doing in the past is we've been creating a new project, and then we've been starting off with unit tests. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a live share session.
Cool.
So for folks who were here the last season, you've seen us do this. If you're new to this series, live share is a tool that allows you to invite people into your session. It's updating my platform. So I'm just going to send a private message to Nell with my live share link, because I don't want you all of you watching, I don't want you to dive in. But what's going to happen is Nell's going to have access to my Visual Studio Code session. That doesn't mean that it's a screen share. What it is Nell will have VS Code or full Visual Studio running locally, and inside her VS Code, it'll be the same folder will be open, full access to all the files, access to terminal, and all that kind of stuff. So now when you accept that, I should.
Okay. Do I just click on the link?
Yep, just click on the link, and that should.
Okay. Cool.
That should do it.
Just thinking.
Okay,
got it now.
Yep.
All right, let's open in Visual Studio Code. Open, so I can use my Vim screen shares. Install and open.
And so because it's like the files are shared and the actions are shared, but not the screen, it doesn't matter what setup you got. So now if you've got a different theme, if you've got different shortcuts, if you've got different screen layout, whatever the code will be running in your Visual Studio Code in whatever format you want it. But mine stays in my layout. So we're just editing code. And then I'm going to accept read write. So you now have full read write access to everything. If you just try something in the terminal.
Okay. It's thinking. Cannot edit the terminal in read only mode because I'm anonymous. I need to sign in. Let me do that. All right.
Okay.
Let's use my GitHub account.
Yeah, that's a good safety feature. You have to be signed in to authenticate you are who you are before you can access my terminal. So we joked about this in the last series. I think it was Josh was joking about doing an RM minus RF. It's like, no, do not delete my things.
All right, signing in. First, I type in my password wrong. I blame it on the daylight savings time switch. All right.
Yes, but our brains are all an hour out, therefore we can't think.
Exactly. All right.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to run a cargo init in the word search directory just to create an application. So I've got this folder here, which is where the word search code is going to go. And I've just run the cargo init, which is their command to create the whole Rust setup. Cargo starts off as a package manager because it's all about dealing with crates and cargo, hence the naming. But it now kind of does everything. So we've got our cargo toml, which is our package file. And you can see Nell is looking at this file right now. Hence a little purple thing there. And then we've got our source folder with our main.rs, which is just does the default hello world. And if I just do a cargo run, it'll build, it'll run, and we get hello world. So that's our default hello world. So while Nell's signing in, what I need to do is I need to add test cases. So config tests, mod test. Now I think this is the right thing.
There we go.
Okay. So Copilot just filled everything in for me, and that is cheating. So I'm going to deactivate Copilot for Rust. Cool. So Nell, you're in. Can you type some in the terminal?
Yes, I think. It still says to read. Oh, request read write access. Okay, you should get something.
There you go. Just
All right.
permitted that.
Okay, gotcha. All right, CSH terminal. Can I type in it? Yes, I can.
Yes, you
cool.
can.
Say
Woohoo.
hello. See if I can make your computer say something.
Just said hello. Nice.
Yay! All right, there we go. Cool.
Cool. Walled Motion says, hey, no copilot allowed. Yes,
let
I've
me
disabled
disable it.
copilot.
Oh, you've got
I've
it.
disabled
Okay.
it for Rust. Because otherwise it'd be too easy. Yeah. And then
That's
one
true.
says, okay, let it cheat a bit. Lol. No, because that'll just be too easy. We don't want it to be easy. So we have a test here. This test just does a simple assert. So if I run cargo test, it'll run our test case.
Cool.
It works. So I always like to start with a test case. Whenever I'm approaching these problems, I like to start with the test case. And certainly, if you're working these problems in an interview and there's people around you, you should also be talking out loud as you solve the problem. I think that's kind of a top tip here. Whenever you're working through these problems, chances are what the interviewers are more interested in is how you approach it rather than do you successfully complete it. So talking through everything you do is so important. So what I'm doing here, what Nell and I are going to be doing here, this is how you should be approaching this if you are being watched when you do these kind of tests. You want to be able to have these conversations with people. So we've got a test here, config test, which means it's only compiles in when we're doing tests. We have a module called test for our test live, and this is marked as a test. So Nell, I guess I'm going to ask you this question. How would you represent this board? What format? How would you format this data?
I mean, one thing that immediately comes to mind, though I don't know if it's the right way, is an array of arrays. So we have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. It looks like we have a consistent sized board, which is nice.
We do. Yep. So if we have an array of arrays, though, would that allow us to have different size boards, or is that?
Well, in Rust, no, because array. Well, I mean, it could, but in Rust, arrays, the size of the array must be known at compile time. So it wouldn't be something you can add in at runtime. If we wanted to do that, we could use a vec, which does not have a known size at compile time. It can be added to throughout.
Okay, so, but I think this raises an interesting point. If someone was approaching this actually in an interview, it's, as you say, these are all the same size.
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost like a question for the person who set this is, will it always be the same size? Can I make that assumption? So, you know, yeah, we could just assume it's a fixed size for now because that's what we've got in the examples. But there's nothing here that says it could be a different size. But that's, again, that's something you probably should be asking that question. World Matches says, question about array and const n. Can I use const n to make a dynamic array size?
I don't know on that. Possibly. Constant n taking in a generic. I don't actually know. But if you want to maybe pull up Rust Playground or something and try that out, I'd love to know the answer.
You can do it. And in one of the previous episodes, I think it was the second one, Ryan actually showed how to do that. And there is a way, yeah, it gets templatized, so there is a way to do it.
Gotcha.
We didn't end up using that, so I don't have the code example, but I think if you go back, I think it's the second episode, Ryan actually showed how to do that. So it's in the chat somewhere is a link to this GitHub repo with it. So yes, you can, but I cannot remember for the life of me what the syntax is. Okay, so should we just assume it's one size?
I mean, maybe for an initial implementation.
Okay, let's do it then. Let's do it.
Cool.
So if we go, let's board equal. This is the array syntax, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So we've got letters. Now, what I should have put these letters in something where I could have copied and pasted them. I? So you know what? I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
Cool.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Save this to my desktop, and then what I should be able to do. Come on.
Can you do that from an image? Or is it Markdown?
You can do it.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the cool features of Mac OS is you can do it from an image.
Oh, wow.
So it looks like
I didn't know that.
It's missed a couple of letters. It missed FJ. Yeah, it's one of the new features in. Oh, it's trying to be too smart. It's tried to ABHEJP FCJ LLW excellent because it didn't quite get it right.
Gotcha.
BYXI WVUILW. It's one of the new features of macOS
Gotcha.
Ventura. You can like copy and paste text from an image. So that's me.
Awesome. And I assume we'll want to put each letter individually in quotation marks.
That feels like the right thing to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh, this is very, very uninteresting to do, isn't it?
Sorry. Here, I'll take the lower. I'll give you a hand and take the lower one.
This is the Imagine live show. It's teamwork for these boring formatting tasks.
Yep. Fair formatting. All right, and then Walt Matthias asked a good example, or good question. Should you be using Char or string slice in this case? That is a good question. Let me pull up the documentation on Char.
Yeah, while you pull that up, just a quick question. One says, thanks for sharing us the feature. I think you're better off typing it. Yeah, it probably would have been quicker to type that because trying to get the copy and paste working.
All right, so Char type represents a single character. I mean, I do think it works for either. I don't know if one would be more optimized than the other. A Char is always 4 bytes in size, so it's consistent. I don't know that it's, I mean, string slice, I don't think is necessarily a consistent size, though all of our string slices in these arrays, or all of our letters are a consistent size. So I think it could be either, honestly.
Be one of the ones you want to run like a million different iterations of it with both and see whether there's any performance improvement. But what we're doing here, I doubt it'd be anything noticeable, would it?
No, most likely not.
So that's the word we that's the word we want. And then just typing at the moment. Build a function. So let's we want assert. Is there like assert true?
Assert
or just assert would be assert true.
Yeah, I think it's just assert. Yep. And Walton Tia says, I'm wondering if comparing Char will be easier than comparing string slices. It might be. Though I think, I mean, maybe for the sake of clarity, let's continue with using the string slices like we are for right now. But again, a Char, if we're doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of comparison, it might be easier. But we might very well find that it's not, and then come back and change them into Chars.
Yeah, because one says Char is actually better because they don't require 2 memory accesses.
Gotcha.
Okay. Oh, Doc Jones, got to run to a meeting. Enjoy the questions and discussions. I'll catch up with problem solve and recording. Thanks, Jim and Nell. Well, thanks, Doc, for joining us. Yeah, I think at this rate, we won't complete this today. We've got like 15 minutes left. So I think we'll be back on this next week. But yeah, hopefully you can catch recording and then join us next week as we try and get further.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, we'll carry on with
Yeah.
the string slices, and then we'll try.
And as one says, I mean, Char, yes, it might be more optimal because it doesn't require 2 memory accesses, where a string slice might require 1. But let's pretend we're in a high pressure interview situation. I think it's okay to pursue this course of action at the moment. But again, obviously, it's something we can come back and iterate on.
So, just out of curiosity, I know, like in C++, you would just do that for a car. Is that the same in Rust?
I think so. Yeah, you know what? Let's just we'll convert those, and we can probably let's do that. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna do a string replace.
Okay. Yep.
JS. See if that works. Hey.
So.
Uh-oh. I think I screwed something up.
That's all right.
Oh, thank you.
That one there, and then let's do this one here. So yeah, one says yes, it is, and World Magic disagrees. Yes, single quote.
Awesome.
Okay. So that means here. So if I just turn on the, why is my Rust analyzer? Come on, Rust analyzer, because that's something that's not popped up yet. Is the Rust analyzer? Normally it pops up, so let's close that. Let's come on, Rust analyzer. Okay, let's reload the Rust analyzer just to, because that should then start. There we go. There we go. So yeah, the single quote we've shown here with the Rust analyzer, the awesome extension for VS Code, shows you all the things. It's
Rust analyzer is fantastic.
Yeah, a car of 6 and 4. So we got 4 cars of 6 there, and our word is a string slice.
Cool.
Nice. Graham Duxton says, highly recommend using Bacon on a second screen for real-time Rust analyzer updates. It's awesome. I have not heard of that.
Neither have I. That sounds interesting.
I mean, I highly recommend eating bacon.
Yes.
So I'm curious now. So if I go here,
I'm searching Bacon Rust analyzer. Okay. Background Rust code check.
Okay.
Oh, cool. That is a new thing. Awesome.
Nice. It almost looks like it's kind of constantly compiling in the background and just showing the compiler out. Oh, nice. Nice. Thanks, Graham. Cool. World Matty says, this is true learning. No copilot, no Rust analyzer. And take out Clippy too. We can't take out Clippy. Oh, I've just dropped a video, by the way, of a ChatGPT powered Clippy. Which, if you look on the Microsoft Factory YouTube channel, you'll see it on there. I interviewed a guy who built a ChatGPT powered Clippy, 3D printed Clippy, which is not related to Rust Clippy, but you know, it's Pi Day. I'm excited about it. Okay, so we've got our test, and I've written this function is in board, which doesn't exist yet. So let's actually create this. So pub fun is in board.
Well,
and then
taking an array of cars.
So can I just? So I have to do this, don't I? Because I have to specify the size.
I think so. Well. Okay. Well, it seems to be working.
So if I just do that, no red squigglies.
Cool.
On this test, it failed because this is returning false. So we've kind of got our red to green type idea. If we're doing this test is now red. We can start implementing it to go green. Okay, so this now that's the easy part. Now we have the hard part. So I assume. Oh, sorry, I missed the thing from Graham. Graham Dawson's yes, constant compilation checks. So yes, that's what Bacon's doing. It's behind the scenes. It's running compilations and constantly spitting out those checks. Thanks, Graham. So yeah, I have to get this Bacon thing think I try. Oh, and Fuel Snable is in the house. Hello, and that says Fuel Snable. So Fuel Snable attends a lot of my streams.
Oh, cool.
Developer based in Norway. So glad to have you here, Fuel Snable. Welcome back.
Greetings.
So is Rust the new rage in code interviews? Yes. Maybe for Rust jobs. Watch the recording. And we talked about Rust in places earlier. And Fuel Snable says, I troll a lot of Jim streams. Yes. So we may get derailed even more. But please, Fuel Snable, we've got 10 minutes left. We're trying to do something. So please do not derail too much.
All right. So, I mean, I guess a brute force approach we could take is, take the first letter in the word and go through the, each element in the first, see if it exists in the first array, then see if it exists in the second, third, fourth, etc.
And that gives us our starting point, doesn't it? And that's our way to start.
Yeah. And once we have the first letter, then we can start looking around for the second one.
I guess we have to assume, if I go back to the example here, we're looking for like world, for example. There's 4 W's in here.
Yes, that's true. So, I mean, maybe if we don't find the second letter, then we go back to looking for another instance of the first letter.
So we kind of walk through the array. If we find the first letter, that's where we kick off a search.
I mean, that's possible. It seems brute forcey, but that is one way that could work.
Because what would it be if we think about rows and columns? So if we go for row in
our board,
and then for col in row, that means we're iterating through chars. Graham Dodson says, seems like depth first search. Yes, I guess we are kind of depth first search. We kind of just find it, and then once we have we depth first for our starting point, and then we do like a breadth first,
right,
to go out from there. Marcion says, first time watching, excellent content. Thanks. Awesome. Glad you're enjoying it. One says, no, you don't have the indices. That's a good point. We probably need those, don't we? Because we need to say where we are starting from.
We need to track those. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we want is row in, is it range?
Yeah.
And then we go from, was it 0 to
row dot length. So we have consistently styled rows at the moment, or consistently sized rows at the moment. Or board dot.
Right?
It would be row dot length, I think. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe it would be board dot length.
The column one would be row dot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Range, and that's row.
Got some squigglies.
A lot of red squigglies here.
Such a range to use size, found type, use size. Okay. Let me pull that up. Rust range. Gotcha.
I run cargo tests. We can see all the compiler outputs.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Because that is a use size. That's a number in. Oh yeah, this isn't right. This would be board.
Okay, gotcha.
That's that one. Oh yeah.
So I don't
for
think
Colin 0.
Yeah.
So one says 0.board.len. Oh, 0.board.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think we need. Yeah, and I don't think. Do we need the range keyword? I don't think we do. Yeah, I think that might work. And there we go. Cool.
There we go. Yep, that is what one actually put down. So thank you, one. Good spot there. Thank you. So one says we don't need the range word. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. Good spot there. Thanks, one. Wald Matthews says, could you use .enumerate, giving you the index and value for each item? What is, so if we did or .enumerate.
Yeah, an iterator that yields the current count and the element during iteration.
Ooh.
Well, that's kind of cool. Here, I will paste the documentation in our private chat. There we go. If you want to pull that up.
Okay. But yeah, so we could actually enumerate through and get the index and the value.
Yeah, I think that might work better.
Okay, that does. Yep. One's actually very kindly put an example in there.
Score.
So for awesome, I think one, I should probably get you to do this instead of me because
yeah, well done.
For I row in board.iter.enumerate. Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And then we do that for the column as well.
So for in fact, if I so don't want I, let's go for J because that's the next one. J col in row dot iter dot enumerate.
Cool. Gosh. Fantastic. Nice. That works a lot better and that's a lot more readable too.
That's really nice. Thank you, One. That's awesome. World Magic confirms have to go for the iter first to create the iterator. Gotcha. Functional versus imperative, as World Magic puts it. Nice. That's cool. Okay, so this is where we're gonna go through, and then we can say if col equals we need the first letter of the word, don't we? So let first letter equals. Can I just do word 0?
It doesn't look like.
Can it be indexed by integer? So how do I get? Oh, you can use chars dot.
Yeah.
Chars. And that chars returns chars, and then can I just do that?
That looks. It doesn't like that.
Dot. It said chars dot nth or something, which is not nth. There we go. Nth.
All right.
That works. Or one says word.chars.next.unwrap. So I guess that would be iterating through it. But I think nth does it. This is an option. So we'll just unwrap this because we're going to assume it's always
cool.
Always going to be.
If we panic, it's okay.
Yeah, because the whole point of this test is it in the board? Right. So it doesn't matter if you panic because the word can't be there because the word doesn't exist. Yep. So if col equals first letter, can I compare at char with char? World Magic says 1, send your CV to Jim. Yeah. One says, well, Clippy would say they're the same and recommend you use next. But they are equal.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So, and then here, chars.next with a recommendation from Clippy.
So we can't compare a borrowed char with a non-borrowed char.
Okay, so how do we...
I mean, can we do like two char or something? Like we can take a string slicing or a borrowed string and convert it into a string?
I can convert it to a string. What is two owned? Does that return... That's not a borrow one anymore if we do two owned.
I think that'll work. Yeah. Borrowed chair. Yep. Yes, there we go.
So one says if col equals... Okay, so what one said is if we do... If col equals...
Oh, we can also convert the first letter into a borrowed as well very easily by adding the @ sign or the ampersand.
The one says it's cheaper, just take a ref using that. This is interesting because if I was doing this like C++, this wouldn't work because this would be saying, is this reference, is it exactly the same reference in memory? But interesting that Rust does this. Yeah, okay. Sorry, so Fuel Snable says, in Rust, I read it's common to mix code and test code. Yes, from what my understanding is, we put the test code in the same module. Reyes says, yes, DFS Boolean helper invoked in all 4 directions. Depth first search. Yeah. So yes, you do a depth first search.
Gotcha.
Once you've got to land a very character. Okay, one is now saying, actually think it'd be better to do it on line 9 so you don't have to do it every time. Oh.
Yeah, that'll work. Yep.
What like that?
Cool.
Done.
All right. Nice.
Cool. And on that note, we have hit time. Unfortunately, we have an hour block because there's other people sharing the
Gotcha.
Twitch channel. So it's a few questions we haven't managed to get to. I'm sorry about this. We'll be back same time next week, and we will carry on with this. This is, you can see why these streams can take a long time to actually get through, because we have a lot of great conversation going on during the stream. So next week we'll be back and we'll carry on with the same problem. But thank you everyone for joining. Hope you enjoyed this. We're putting there should be a link in the chat to actually sign up for the series if you're not signed up for the series. But otherwise, thank you everyone. We'll see you next week for more of the same. And I'll make sure the code we've got so far is up in GitHub if you want to have a nose at it. So thanks everyone, and see you next week.
Have a good day.